Good evening and welcome to the maiden edition of the Electoral Reform Half Hour on NTA News 24 Abuja. I am Ezenwawagu. Thanks for joining us. Electoral Reform Half Hour is a program aimed at fostering inclusive dialogue among citizens from varied backgrounds concerning electoral reform and constitutional amendment. It also hopes to enhance public understanding and awareness regarding electoral reform and compile and possibly present citizen-derived recommendations to the National Assembly and INEC for consideration. This program is brought to you by Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa with support from MacArthur Foundation. In a democratic society, the media serves as a crucial watchdog, ensuring transparency and accountability in electoral processes. By investigating and reporting on electoral practices, the media not only informs the public, but also pressures authorities to uphold democratic standards through comprehensive coverage. Media outlets bring to the light issues such as voter fraud, electoral irregularities, and policy changes, fostering an informed electorate and encouraging civic participation. They also play a pivotal role in educating voters about their rights and the importance of their participation in the electoral process. Joining us tonight is Seun Okimbalo, a political journalist with extensive experience in producing and presenting broadcast programs covering political events and managing media events with a high-energy background in television. Seun excels in creating compelling stories and using new media platforms to build brand awareness and engage with diverse audiences. Seun, it's more than a great pleasure to have you tonight.
Thank you so much, Ezenwa. Thank you so much. I appreciate the effort you are making in this kind of venture that you have forayed into.
Well, we've done this severally. You have extensive background in reporting elections, not just reporting elections, and being at the center. That's what makes you the must-be person in this program tonight. So I just want to see how we get into the issue of misinformation, as this has become, very top issue in the electoral landscape in the country. And sometimes it leads to confusion and effectively even distrust among voters. How can we combat misinformation using, current, digital possibilities? How can we combat misinformation?
All right, I think we need to set the record straight, And the tool of misinformation, it has another name. Fake news. What is not the right information is either a disinformation or a misinformation. Is either you are intentionally trying to twist the information, twist the truth, or you are trying to use it in such a way to affect the end goal or the result. That means that there are people who set aside, who sit down and plan and say, okay, I want to make everybody believe that Ezenwawagu is actually a woman. We'll tell everybody that is a woman. We'll tell everybody who is not. Change your identity, change who you stand for, change your value. Sort of disinforming and breaking down everything that your identity is all about. That's one role that that particular pandemic. I'll say it's a pandemic of the new era of digital age. And it emerged with the use or the coming of the emergence of the new media, the social media, and everything that has come with technology. And what that has done is that it has put the tools of mass information into the hands of the ordinary people. Where were we coming from? We're coming from the ages of newspaper, the age of radio, the traditional media, where the tool of informing the mass media is in the hands of selected people. Is an elite tool in the hands of just a few people. and they are delegated by ethics and the values of what they do to channel those information. But now, just imagine that power has now been given to the average person.
It's been democratized.
Democratized. Unfortunately, the democratization of that tool has not also been regularized in such a way that it's just in anybody's hand, either the mildly mad person, the insane person, the all right person, the sane person. All kinds of people have that tool in their hands, and there are those who want to use it for ulterior motive. There are those who are using it right.
So how do I know that you have very rich and extensive background in the media? How can media outlets use their platforms to combat this pandemic?
Right. So now the idea is misinformation has become a major tool. Then the traditional media, which the new media was an alternative voice to the traditional media. In this era where misinformation is now thriving, what we need to do is to make the traditional media the alternative medium. So it becomes the check and balance for the new media, because when people cannot believe what goes on, when people cannot trust what they see on the new media, what they reliably will look forward to or fall back to is the traditional media. And there are fundamental issues here that we need to look at. Can we fact check the information that you get? What you can get from a traditional media is the issue of integrity, trust, values, ethical practices, which are not found in the social media, on the new media space, because it's been democratized, like you said. So the traditional media now serve as the police of the new media age, because that is when you can put an identity, because anybody can hide behind any handle. Anybody can give information, calls himself a Susan, and in fact he's a Jonathan sitting somewhere far away from where he or she says he's tweeting or is releasing information.
I understand that, but you know that this program was battered really to combat misinformation in some way, and that's why PACA is decided to partner with the Nigerian Television Authority. Electoral reforms is taking the front burner. How do we use media outlets to combat this, especially in their reporting, to ensure that, you know, they contribute to the current efforts at genuine electoral reforms, and rather than just simply reinforcing existing biases?
Absolutely. Now, part of what you're doing with the NTA is one of the big two, to deliberately inform the public about the danger in misinformation and the awareness that do not believe everything that you see. If you see an information on the social media or the new media, can you cross-check which other mainstream media organization is using that information or has that information? If it is not done, do not spread it. Because what happens is that people get an information, they've not been able to validate that information, then they spread it to you, you spread it across, and it's been spread across. So one major thing is that education of the average person, the voter, the electorate, the Nigerian person, to say, look, there is the existence of misinformation, of fake news out there. Then there is also the fact that at the end of the day, you need to cross-check with the traditional media, and there needs to be a deliberate effort by partners to be able to come together and fight it, because it's a pandemic. We cannot sit in our spaces and think that, oh, misinformation is just there. It will kill our society if we are not careful. And I can give several examples where fake news has almost wrecked their society, changed the landscape, changed things. In American election, they saw what happened. In our own election, we saw what happened too. They've literally said the person who went to do PhD in the 2023 election does not have the PhD. The person had to come out to say, I finished from so-so school, I did so. You have to start explaining yourself, because that is the danger that fake news poses.
So what are the tools that are available to the media outlets to be able to do this effectively?
First and foremost is that there needs to be a counterbalancing. Now, the tool by which misinformation is being spread out, the traditional media need to also be very strong on those platforms, such that if you are By the time you're checking one or two thread, you will see the truth. If people are spreading fake news and they see the NTA, they see AIT, they see Channels TV, they see Arise, they see all of the traditional media, and they're reporting something that is different from what the fake news is, people easily will know. So the strength of the traditional media has to be fortified. You need to go to the same battleground, the battlefield, to fight the purveyors of fake news. That's one way. And I mentioned this earlier on. There needs to be that conscious awareness. And I see that a lot of the times people just pass information on the traditional media, not putting a background to it. Take, for example, if anybody has said, Ezenwa is a Yoruba man from Ekiti State, and you know you are not, and you reporting it on the traditional media, for example, will say, Ezenwa is from so state in the southeastern part of the country. However, there are fake news out there because we need to deliberately point out the fake news.
Delegitimize.
Exactly. So not only that, you are also power for power, strength for strength, in the same turf, fight fake news. You also need to deliberately highlight what the fake news and that's one thing that we need to consciously do as a media.
We're going around the country in a training program, and because you seem to give the impression that the challenge is with the social media and the democratization of the digital space. But what it eventually comes out is that we're dealing with issues around the Electoral Act, and you have the most enlightened segment of society not even being conscious, including, you know, journalists and media people, not even being conscious of what is in the act itself. How then can they combat?
It's a laziness of the mind. And look, there is a prevalence of the misinformation technique and the fake news technique. And look, one of the things is that you sit down there, you can go to a particular website to find the truth, but fake news comes to you. You go in search of the truth, but fake news is easier, it's cheaper. They pass it around, WhatsApp groups, and you wanted to find out the truth. You have to go in search of a particular website or the handle of to verify. So the laziness is the first disease that we need to conquer. Because if we understand the danger in fake news that it portends for our society, of our electoral process, especially, you know what happens on election day. They will tell you that election is no longer happening. Stay in your house. IPOB has taken over the whole city. And if you're not careful to cross-check, you just remove your shoes.
You were in Anambra, you saw what the challenge was. So is electoral reform half hour on the NTA. We'll take a little break and we'll be back. Yes, Sheung, great to have you, like I said earlier. So how do we get into the grassroots? Because that's where the bulk of this misinformation is consumed. Sheung Kimbalo said it. Then that's it. How do we? Because that's where the issues need to get to now. How can these digital platforms be specifically, used to reach the grassroots?
And I dare say that it's actually cheaper to reach the grassroots. The sophistication of the new media space, I keep mentioning the new media, is not the only medium of or platform through which fake news and misinformation is being spread. But it takes a whole chunk also to play their role in voter awareness. For the sake of election, we need to put pressure on political parties to earmark money, resources for voter awareness. I mean, there are still places in this country where town criers still go around with passing information. There needs to be deliberate people when there are time for inoculation, for some kind of what this immunization. Yes. You see the immunization officers with their immunization kits and gadgets. They go around door to door. I mean, it is not for us to be able to fight misinformation. We need to get on the ground. There are places that internet has not even reached, but there is one man in the community that they believe so much, and he's the Lord and Master of information. When he comes and he throws that misinformation, everybody grabs it and everybody's believes it.
So I don't like to call them local media. I like to say subnational media, media organizations or domestic media. Yeah. How you are here and you have a national following and Shehu is everywhere in people's homes. How can national media, because the subnational media are under-resourced and sometimes even underfunded. How can those of you who play very significant role in the national media support the subnational or domestic media organizations?
I think what the so-called more national media outlets, what needs to be done is to have a more intimate partnerships. There are areas that the national or the bigger networks cannot reach, that the subnational or the local media organization can reach. You cannot fight the local media or battle the local media or engage the local media in their own terrain. They own it. They are the Lord and Master. You need to partner. There are advantages that they have over the bigger media. And one of the other things, apart from partnership in the area of training, partnership in the area of exposure, partnerships in the area of program exchange, creativity, idea exchange. All of those things need to come in play. If there are major elections, or those who are very savvy and exposed in covering larger election can also come around, train, help retrain, retool, and help retool those who are in the local community. In fact, when one of the in those off-cycle elections and in all of the things that I do for my media organization, Channels TV, is the fact that we organize a whole lot of engagement. In those engagement, I go 2-3 days to the local media organization and seek partnerships with them, because you as a bigger network, you cannot reach what they can reach. I mean, I used to work for the NTA, and those years, I mean,
it is your 23rd year that you have not entered into any NTA station.
Now, but the thing about the big and the local is the fact that the bigger one has the power of a larger, but the local one has the more penetration, depth. So the synergy has to be there. Realization of the strength of for each is very critical to see how that partnership, especially training. There's never, every election cycle, I try as much as possible to bring my team, even if it's 1 or 2 hours of refresher. We got to do a refresher before we hit back to the field. That, I think, that partnership is very critical.
So I've seen increasing, partisanship in media reporting and indeed polarization, if you like to say so. So my challenge has always been how do we get the media to remain impartial? We work together around all of these issues, but the big challenge is I'm somewhere somebody says INEC promised, and I said promise? No, I thought election is a law-guided activity. So why are you talking about promise? And then he goes about insisting that. So where do we find impartiality and professionalism, and how do we help that?
One of the things that I think is very critical is you cannot take ownership of the media away from the power or the potency of the media. Like they say, he who pay the piper dictates the tune. You cannot take ownership, proprietorship away from the potency. The media organization can go just as far as the owner wants it to go. Now, if the owner wants you to look at this cap and see it as blue, that is what it is. And we need to start telling ourselves the truth, that the fact remains that we need genuine investors who are professionals, not those who make money out of politics and don't know where to put it and they take it into the media. The truth that people don't know is that this is the only profession that is captured by the Nigerian Constitution. And it gives the power to the media to be able to hold government to account. So if you have people who are fraudulent, that their ways are not validly, founded, go into the business of the media, they will ruin our society, because media is at the heart of the society. It guides, is the compass of the society. Now, the biases will always be there, because the issue of proprietorship and ownership is very critical. Now, there needs to be law specifically guiding the operation of media outlets, even to the issue of remuneration. An hungry journalist is going to be a dangerous journalist. It's just like an hungry policeman carrying AK-47. It's going to be a disaster to the society. So it's very critical that the media cannot be impoverished, because the country and the society is in danger.
Shehu, I used to say that now that you have laced your media experience with the law, which puts you on a very sound footing, what are the best practices that you think can be deployed by media outlets and organizations to eliminate, avoid biases in those reporting? I used to say that the media owners employ talents and turn them to marketers or businessmen. Yeah. And then say, go and raise money. But the reason you employ the person initially was not that. From what you've seen, especially, I know that you also have some experience outside the country. What are those best practices that we can bring to bear?
I think legally speaking, the framework in which the media needs to work has to be broken down, refreshed, and repurposed. And a lot of people may not like it. The NBC is not the best to do check and balance on the media. Anything that is controlled by the government is not the best to do check and balance on the media. I think with the power of the military laws which came into being, bringing the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission into force, needs to be. We need to make it something that is not strangled to the apron string of the Ministry of Information or the Nigerian government, such that we have to have an independent ombudsman to be able to be a check and balance to the practices of the media.
Shehu, I hope we had more time, and I think we're going to talk with our partners to see how we extend the time. If we have somebody like you in the house, we should have more time to. This is where we draw the curtain on this episode of Electoral Reform Half Hour, and we wish to specifically thank Shehu Kimbalo for being the first guest on our program. Thank you, Shehu.
Thank you so much.
And it was a pleasure having you. Electoral Reform Half Hour is brought to you by the Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, with sponsorship from the MacArthur Foundation. We are live every Saturday from 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. And you can also watch a repeat broadcast at every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. You can also watch our live stream on YouTube on www.youtube.com.nt at NEWS24 24 Hub. Our social media handles are at Parker NG, or Instagram at Parker Africa, and Facebook at Parker. YouTube at Parker NG. I am Ezenwa Wagu. Thank you, Shehu, for being here.
Thank you so much, Ezenwa. All the best. Good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.